Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom podcast. Today, we continue our comic book movie journey through film with Captain America, the Winter Soldier. This one was released on April 4th, 2014, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, and directed by the Russo brothers, Anthony and Joe. I am Colton Robertson. I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. This is a pretty important entry into the MCU, as it is the first MCU entry directed by the Russo brothers, and they will be the formative image-making filmmakers for the MCU the rest of the time, through Endgame,
Oh, yeah.
basically.
Yeah, we'll be with them for a little bit. We got a journey to go on with them. But no, this did kind of feel, after you tell me that, it kind of does feel like the first of these type of movies. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really realize it while watching necessarily, but now that you bring it up, it does make sense
I
that this
mean,
is the first of the bigger, or not
yeah,
bigger, but
the I know what you mean, though. It's grander. It feels like there's
mhm.
even the stories about one character are expanding into national catastrophe,
Mm,
or worldwide catastrophe. I
mhm.
think that, this movie is, for my money, the best Russo brothers MCU movie. I don't know that it's my favorite. Infinity War might give it a run for its money in that regard. Infinity
Mhm.
War is pretty strong. Um,
Yeah.
and that might even give it a run for it in terms of best. But I don't know. I think thematically, as far as a beginning to end good fucking movie, this is probably the best Russo brothers MCU movie. It's also the first of 4 for them and the shortest one at 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, they like to let stuff breathe, huh?
Yeah,
They like
to
to
say the
take their
least.
time, maybe is more apt. But yeah, it felt, I guess, maybe a little longer than it needed to be, but I don't think this one is suffering from any length issues yet. I don't think it's
No. No.
um there, but it is like every character is very, I don't know. I feel like this isn't just a Cap movie. This is Cap, Black Widow, Nick Fury, and Sam Wilson's movie. Like this is, it's kind of just a journey that all of them are going on. Like
Mm,
more of like a Shield. I don't know. This is because Shield is completely been taken over. Like it's not. It's almost surprising that like Tony and other people don't show up in this movie.
right, right.
So I guess it makes, when we get to Civil War, maybe it does make sense that we do have basically everyone showing up, because like Shield is completely compromised, and the only mention of Tony we get is like, yeah, he helped with the jets. We gave us an
Yeah,
upgrade or gave us
yeah.
a few tips or something, and then like, and that's it. So, but I prefer him not to be in the movie. I still like that it is a Cap story. It still is a Cap story. I don't want to say that this is another Avengers movie. I don't think it
No,
is.
not by any stretch. That's
But
the strength of this movie, is that it manages to be a Captain
mm,
America movie while still
yeah,
giving supporting characters who are major characters and other that will go on to be major characters and other things, a true supporting role.
yeah,
They're not nothing, they're not overpowering the story. The story is still Steve Rogers.
mm-hmm,
Uh, but I love that this is the definition of a good supporting cast, as far as what a supporting cast in a movie about a specific character is supposed to be. This is where you could argue Captain America Civil War kind of falters a bit. Um,
yeah. And I would say the only did Haley Atwell actually play Peggy here, and then they just added a bunch of either
Makeup.
prosthetic or, a lot of it looked visual effects, it to my eye, and like a lot, like that was the only time where it was noticeably something was off. Like this was um it not uncanny valley necessarily, it was her mouth movement, her teeth were very perfect, um and not just that, like she obviously had braces or something. It was like they were not photo real, I want to say. Like they didn't have any light did not bounce off. They're very dull. And
Yeah,
like
I mean,
her,
it's Haley Atwell. It's Haley Atwell playing Peggy. Now, I don't
okay,
know if she is
yeah,
VFX up or anything, but
I think like her, everything but her mouth, I feel like is probably
ah,
like,
I got it. I got it. Haley Atwell was aged using CGI for her
mm-hmm,
appearance as elderly Peggy Carter. Uh, Co-director Anthony Russo commented that all of the old people have looked the same in movies since the 80s when you go down the makeup route. We changed her face and her muscle structure and all of those things that change when you age. Well, congratulations, Anthony. It didn't look good. So,
yeah, that's
um,
what I was gonna say. I mean, but that was the only time in the movie where I was like, oh, okay, so that doesn't really look the best.
it's
But
incredibly dismissive. I don't like the Russo brothers, and yeah, that'll probably come through a little bit.
mm,
I think that's incredibly dismissive of makeup artists. That's fucking a horrendous
yeah,
comment to make
that's and
about
like
makeup
it would
work.
make sense if the technology made it look very, very good and better than the makeup could do, but makeup can do much better than that.
Yes,
Or
and it's
just
also
cast an
just
old person.
incredibly.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be Haley
It doesn't
Atwell.
have to be Haley Atwell.
Yeah, who's probably
Fucking genius.
yeah, not or she's not that old, not even close to that old, not like even
Not even.
remotely.
I mean, like
So
she's
it's
got to be
like
pushing. She's pushing what 90, 95 here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, yeah,
Uh,
it's I don't know. That was the only decision I was like, okay, something's very very off here. And I don't want to say that that was the only time where it visually looked bad, or it was just kind of like it just there were some shots where it was like, oh wow, they tried a little bit here, like
oh yeah.
they're trying.
In terms of VFX, it's overall pretty strong. There are a few moments that I mean, like I get why they're VFX shots. Um, like up until there's the scene whenever Steve is chasing the Winter Soldier after Nick Fury's assassination.
Mm-hmm.
It looks really, really good. He throws the shield, he catches it, it looks really good. He throws it back at him and he slides away, and then Bucky jumps down. When he arrives to the edge of that building, it could not be more obvious that he is not actually
Yeah,
on the edge of the building.
yeah. What
Um,
I there was really weird times, like, because it looked good the whole time, the whole sequence, like
yeah,
him even jumping across the road
looked
from
very
window
natural.
to
Yeah.
window, like that looked real. I mean, like everything
That's the
looked
thing is that I also don't
real.
want
It's
to
like,
dismiss this movie for
yeah,
like just blanket statement. The visual effects are
hmm,
good in this movie. It was nominated for an Oscar for its visual effects.
wow,
There's a reason it didn't win, and it's because there are standout moments when the visual effects do not look good. Um,
yeah,
and it's the first time since I don't know the Avengers that I've noticed that. You know, I think Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World. I mean, next week we've got Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just when I think about the VFX in those movies, it's pretty seamless
yeah.
as far
Back to
as
Green Lantern is probably the next like actually I mean, and that's not MCU, but like the
no,
movie
that's
before this, that's probably the closest thing that is like a standout
mm,
where like the VFX were noticeably just not up to
off.
par. I guess Ghost
Yeah.
Rider, Spirit of Vengeance is there technically back there,
No, yeah.
um,
No, and, like, that's the thing is I'm trying to pick the ones that
but
are, like, that are the most similar to this. Like, this isn't, like I said, outright bad. Green Lantern, outright bad. Ghost Rider 2, outright bad visual effects. Like, that's
yeah,
the Avengers has those moments that peek through as, like, that could have been better. You know, like, that could have been better, but on the whole, I mean, those fucking things flying through the city, that looks real as shit, you know? So, like,
yeah,
and there's a lot of that in this one. The fucking destruction of the Triskelion at the end of the movie looks incredible. That all that looks really, really good. The crashing of the
yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, but those
Like
fucking
some
things.
carrier, some
Um, yeah,
the mass destruction weapon in the movie. I mean that what a crazy play. I mean that's like instant genocide, and like
yeah.
not even like a race, just eh.
Threats to Hydra.
Yeah, future you is not good. Goodbye. AI deems you bad. Sort of Westworld, like almost.
Yeah, no, for
But
sure. Yeah, no, and that's the thing is that like I know I started out a little negative on this movie. I think that I like it. I like it a lot.
oh yeah. Oh,
I love this movie.
it's very
It
very pretty.
fell rather high
So
on
yeah.
my CBM ranking there. I think that the story in general plays off of the first Avenger and the Avengers really, really strongly. It feels like a sequel to the the first Avenger, truly, but the suspicions that kind of creep up in Steve Rogers throughout the Avengers, where he's distrusting of Fury and he's like, "What are you guys doing with Hydra
Mhm.
Tech? Why is this happening? What's going on here?" Like following through on that. I love that, he's suspicious of Shield before he even knows
That's
they're
true.
Hydra,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
Um, and I like that that follows through on his line from the first Avenger. That's not just like when Stanley Tucci asks him,
Hmm.
do you want to kill Germans? And he's like, I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from, Like that line.
Right.
It's
Hmm.
fascists. He does not like fascists, and Shield was heading down a route that that's a that's fascism. That is
Yeah. Yeah.
fascism.
Easy way to make like the deaths, the people who are dying, like Hydra soldiers. It's like, yeah, they could die. Like I have no qualm with them dying. Like in the Avengers, you have an alien race, an alien invasion, and like them dying, there's no real question. It's like, yeah, we have to protect Earth.
Yeah.
But like in I guess all this is coming from like in kids movies. Usually there has to be a pretty clear reason as to why people are dying, and whenever they're
Mhm.
basically Nazis, it's like the green flag. It's like, yeah, go, go,
Yeah,
kill
go
him
ahead.
in any way you
Kill these
can.
motherfuckers.
And I love like I mean the action was pretty freaking
The action's
gruesome too.
gnarly.
Like I mean
Some of
it's,
the
oh my
some of the
God,
best
like
Captain America action there is, period. Whenever he comes in and clears out that ship at the beginning,
dude,
and he's kicking dudes in the chests, and their chest cavities are
yes.
caving
I
in
mean that
as
dude
he kicks them
died.
into the
That
water.
dude
Yeah,
is dead. Like I mean maybe off the kick alone, but the kick shattered his chest and then just hits a wall come and just, oh yeah, I mean it was, and how
no,
hard he'd throw his shield at people. Like I'm surprised it didn't cut people in half. How hard he was just point blank throwing it at people.
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty
No, it's
gnarly.
and that's I talked
But
about this in the first Avenger episode, like, knowing his strength, we've watched people
mm,
slice people in half.
that's
We've watched
true.
people
Yeah.
murder motherfuckers with the shield,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that he's throwing it hard enough and careful enough that it bounces off people,
Ooh.
like, that's one thing too. Like,
Yeah.
it's
It's almost
the
worse.
the
Yeah.
cap the cap fucking action in this is so fucking clean, dude. I
Mm-hmm.
love the hand-to-hand combat that he has with,
Ooh.
George Rush St. Pierre.
Oh,
He's a
okay. Yeah.
UFC fighter, Batroc.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
he was a UFC fighter in real life. I remember growing up watching UFC, and I was always a big fan of GSP. I don't know anything about him beyond, UFC, so,
Hmm.
and these movies. So, but, like, he, I just love whenever they get people who can do that shit to
Mm-hmm.
do that shit,
Yeah.
because he's doing all that. He's really doing his stunt work and stuff. And the Steve Rogers just, when he puts the shield up and he takes off the helmet and he's like,
Ooh.
"Yeah, let's fucking do this thing." It's
Yep.
fucking cold, man. I love
Mhm.
that stuff. I think
Whew.
that this movie really, I mean, miles better than the Avengers as far as getting Steve Rogers and understanding the character. Um,
Yeah.
I
It,
think that this movie benefits greatly from the characterization of Steve.
hmm. Yeah, because at first I was like, man, there isn't actually enough from the Avengers. And the way I was thinking was Tony deals with like just the PTSD and like the holy shit of that even happening in the first place. But Steve's been a soldier for a while, and
Yeah, Steve
aliens
fought
are
in war.
weird,
Yeah.
Aliens are definitely weird for him, but I get more apt to deal with that. But he's I like the pull through of him being suspicious of Shield and not knowing who to trust, and I didn't
Mhm.
really see that pull
Well, and
through.
he's a man out of time, like, it is much more
Mm-hmm.
obviously a sequel to the first Avenger,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of, little threads that they pull through the
Mm-hmm.
Avengers, and yeah, it does make sense that he'd be a little bit more equipped to deal with Tony'd never been to war, he'd been kidnapped.
Yeah.
He'd been beaten, but he didn't see mass destruction on that scale, you know?
Yeah. Definitely. And Steve's definitely way more buttered up. I don't know what I'm or how what I'm going for there, but he's definitely way more apt to deal with an alien
Yeah.
invasion than Tony, even though he is 70 years, kind of lost through time. And I do love all of the like at the beginning when on your left, and then they have that moment where they talk, and he's like Marvin Gaye, I think he says
Trouble Man
yeah,
soundtrack.
Trouble Man soundtrack, everything you missed all in one album, and he pulls out his little book, and you see like Star Wars, Steve Jobs, Apple in parentheses, like just such an
Yeah.
old man kind of
No,
thing to
and I
do,
love
and
this is something that we've talked about obviously throughout phase 2. The Star Wars references. This is the most Bucky has a whole arm missing. Um, that's the
but
arm that goes missing in this one. Um,
yes, but it's not actively cut off. Isn't it just whenever he falls off the cliff, he loses his arm,
yeah, they
like
flash and
because
they
of
show
the
it
fall?
being
So there
yeah,
is
they
no slice. There is no
there's no I don't
shing.
think so. But
I guess I mean,
regardless,
but Bucky's pretty there.
all the
Yeah.
Star Wars references, Star Wars is already crossed out on his list.
Oh, it
He's already
was. Oh,
watched Star
okay,
Wars.
okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it is. I think that he's already made his way to it. This is the most Star Wars influenced MCU movie besides Guardians of the Galaxy. Like this has Empire Strikes Back written all the fuck
I guess
over it,
the
dude.
character of Bucky himself is pretty Darth Vader-esque. That works
Absolutely.
very, very much.
Throwing the
Um,
shield down, I won't fight you. Like
oh
that
damn.
whole like
Oh
yeah,
shit.
like
And
that whole
even the
setting.
setting of it. Yeah, I
The
was gonna
setting looks like
say.
Cloud
Oh
City or the
shit.
Death Star or anything like
Oh shit.
it is the most Star Wars influenced MCU movie like far and away. Steve Rogers is basically playing Luke Skywalker in this one.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay, I have his little list open here. Yeah, you're right. Star Wars is crossed out. It's Star Wars / Trek.
Yeah.
But he watched Star Wars. He didn't get to Star
Yeah,
Trek
you
yet,
didn't
so
get the
that's
track.
kind of funny. Nirvana is on there.
Fuck
Rocky,
yeah, it is.
Rocky 2 in question mark. Disco, the
Gotta have it.
Berlin Wall, Up and Down. I guess.
I think after he died, the Berlin Wall went up and it also came
So
down.
he didn't even see the Berlin Wall.
I don't think he ever saw it go up. I don't think so.
Okay. The moon landing. It's pretty big. Missed that. And then I Love Lucy is the one at the very top. But so a cool, well-rounded list of I don't know, just little things, but I don't know, it's crazy that like watching the movie at first, this just on your left, it means nothing, at the time, or it's just a corny
Mhm.
little joke, but now it's like this super long thread line of Cap and Sam, and it's like, or Cap and Cap now, it's like, it's
Yeah.
it's crazy that we can't even say Cap without knowing exactly who we're referring to anymore, which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
awesome.
No, and I think that
But
when it came to this is the first time I'd watched this movie in a while, a lot longer than I'd realized.
mhm.
Definitely the first time since The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Oh,
And I
for
can
sure.
usually tell this by my Letterboxd. Whenever I log something on Letterboxd, um, if I've ever logged it, it automatically marks rewatch. And I've been
Mhm.
logging stuff since January 1st, 2022. So I have not watched this movie in at least 2 years.
Okay.
If we're
Yeah.
going back before The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, at least 2.5, almost 3 now.
Yeah.
This feels so like they are pulling through a lot from this movie for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's very, very satisfying, and having that be my most recent interaction with Bucky and Sam, kind of seeing them in their not infancy, but
Mhm.
their early goings in the MCU. It was super nice. I love that stuff. I also I appreciated Sam Wilson a great deal in this movie. I think that Anthony Mackie is
Yeah.
a pretty solid actor, and I think
That's
that he does a pretty good job. I love the thing is that between this and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I feel like uh, the character gains like an edge of cockiness to him, and then he has to sort of learn to lose it necessarily, but I feel like he gets real cocky and then he gets real humble as far as like the next few movies.
Mm-hmm.
But
Dude did see
I
quite the
appreciate.
rise though.
Oh yeah.
I ended up going with him for my character of the movie.
Oh no shit.
I couldn't quite give him the performance because I think another does quite a good job. But no,
There's
I
at
did give
least
him
I would say there's at least 3
yeah.
performances better than Anthony Mackie in this movie.
But I watched it through that like all the Thor movies that I've watched. I've looked at Loki a little bit closer because of what we've got, and then this one I just took a lot closer look at Sam, and it was just I don't know like the moment he pops up like at the beginning it was a whole different just a whole different feeling completely of seeing him and even just the on your left like it didn't get me to cry or anything but it was like all like the in the
Like,
mind
oh
cry
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of like like man that's just so cool and then like just seeing that he was just a soldier back after 2 tours just helping other people come like get
Mm.
back into real life and and then he's like yeah no Captain America's asking for my help this is definitely a reason to get back into this
There
like
is
he's
no
like
better reason to get back in.
100% I'm doing this again and he's not telling them everything they just thought he was like a
Pilot,
paratrooper
yeah.
or something like that a pilot yeah and he goes I never said that, or I didn't quite say that, or something like
I
that.
just said that we flew,
Um,
we were flying. Yeah.
yeah, and
No, I appreciated Sam a great deal, you know. I love the uh he's down to ride, and that's just
hmm
that's really fucking cool, you know. It's a and just to see where that character ends up come the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is
like it makes
even more
sense
thrilling.
why
Um,
Cap chooses him, or why like Steve
mm,
chooses him to be the next Cap.
absolutely.
It's
I
just
also love that he's a counselor basically. He leads the group.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, he knows how to talk, and
something I wish they'd kind of I feel like they kind of lose sight of this.
oh man,
Um,
wow, because Steve he kind of leads his own sort of thing in Endgame, um, kind of his
Sam,
own
yeah,
little but not
yeah,
Sam.
Sam was blipped at that point.
Oh my God. Wow. I never really put those together. That like
Yeah,
maybe that's why Steve's doing it is because
might
that's
be a little bit of an
oh
influence
my
there from
God,
Sam. Yeah,
shit. And I wish they would have
no,
maybe said something about that,
yeah,
or
something
that could
something
have been
like, but
brought to attention. But
yeah, no, I
hmm,
think that there's there's this heart to Sam that I think they obviously never lose sight of because of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but this is definitely the most compelling supporting role he has up until
hmm,
he's the lead in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like,
yeah,
you know, when he pops up in Ant-Man, it's a lot of fun, you know, whenever his role in Age of Ultron is extremely limited. Isn't he just like at the gathering at the beginning, like the hangout at Stark Tower or something? Um,
okay, yeah. I can't remember anything else. I'm trying to. Yeah, and
yeah, I'm like
Ant-Man,
Civil
it's
War,
just at like
obviously.
just when he's trying to break in or whatever to Shield's
Mhm.
building and that's it and that's all he's in there for that yeah it's very slight yeah that he's in each movie
Civil War,
but
he obviously fights alongside Cap.
hmm
He helps, he helps Steve go into hiding and all that stuff. So like there's some more in Civil War. He gets a hold of Bucky and they do that whole thing. But um regardless, I stand by that
hmm
though. Like this is the best supporting work he's gotten up
yeah
until he is the lead in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I think that it's kind of a shame. I don't have incredible faith that he'll get a better opportunity than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I'm just the
oh
way Brave New World is shaping up looks
are you nervous I'm honestly
astonishingly bad.
really nervous for that
I'm
movie
extremely nervous. I think
I'm
that movie's gonna be
so
bad. I think it's
nervous
gonna be hot garbage, and it won't be his fault, and it's a damn shame. They're gonna do reshoots from May to August this year. 3 months,
and they like
which is
scrapped everything so this is like a
3 months is
complete
an
reshoot
entire movie shoot.
yeah so they're
3
like
months is an entire shoot. Like,
wow
so, all that to say that, like, I appreciate that Anthony Mackie has gotten opportunities as Sam Wilson, like here and in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I hope that Cap 4 kind of
Dude, how
can
can
bring that back
they
around.
can't fuck that up, please. The that last step, like seeing him in the suit with the shield and the wings in
Mhm.
action, dude. Imagine a whole movie with that. Like, dude,
So
okay,
cool.
they can't fuck.
So cool.
Please don't fuck it up. Like, no, like I am very nervous about. I kind of just leave that out of my mind. I'm kind of just waiting for it to get here so then I can just kind of watch it
Well, it's
and go
supposed to
on.
have, I mean,
But
like Harrison Ford is
yeah,
supposed to be Red Hulk, and Betty, uh, yeah, is it Betty Ross? Betty Ross.
the Hulk's
The
first.
Hulk lady is supposed to be in it. Liv Tyler is supposed to be returning as Betty Ross, and
Huh.
uh, like it's gonna have a supporting cast of Hulk characters. Sure, I guess with Steve kind of ushering out, you need to introduce a new supporting cast for Sam Wilson. But wouldn't that just be Bucky and the supporting cast introduced in the
Falcon
Falcon and the
and
Winter
Winter
Soldier?
Soldier.
Yeah, who knows? Regardless, um, I'm a little nervous about that movie.
Because every Cap
Um,
movie's really good. Like that's the thing about every. I mean, even like Civil War kind of treated as a different as like an Avengers movie. But I mean, if his trilogy is like pretty rock
strong. It's a
solid,
strong
like
trilogy.
every movie's good. Um,
Yeah, the only gripe I've ever had with the Cap trilogy is that if you only watch Captain America's trilogy, you have no resolution for the
ah,
character Steve Rogers. There's
yeah,
nothing.
that's
It
fair.
becomes he obviously becomes the face of the MCU alongside Tony Stark, and thus their story gets played out in the
Yeah,
Avengers,
even
which is a fine,
though.
like, that's fine. Like, at this point, if you're going into the MCU, you ought to know you're tackling quite the beast. So you're going to be watching at least 7 movies if you want to get Captain America's full story.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Um,
Yeah, I guess like Thor's first trip, like his before Ragnarok, or I guess it is Ragnarok. That is his third.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I was tripping, but up until Ragnarok, um, even though those movies might not be better made than the Cap movies, it's at least way more of an enjoyable trilogy for the character, like the titular character. I would say, like
Oh, it
you,
feels much more
yeah,
cohesive, neat, complete,
mm-hmm. And
like, I can't even really tell you what the end of Civil War is for
for
Steve.
yeah, like
He takes Bucky to Wakanda.
mm-hmm.
Him and Tony have that fight.
That's like the end of the movie, right? So it's
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah,
they draw, but then it's just kind of like they still have beef though, right? Like for a little bit, or
yeah.
is it like
They don't get cool until Infinity War, and even then, they don't talk to each other much during that movie.
yeah, what?
So, like,
Hmm. Yeah, not much of a through line for Steve because like Ragnarok, it's like Thor has to deal with his father's death and everything, and then
mhm,
like the destruction of his whole
of
home.
Asgard,
Yeah, it's like
and at least the end, if you ignore the post credit scene, which is the beginning of Infinity War,
hmm
where they get ambushed and wipe out half of the people on that ship anyway, which is
damn.
also a choice. The Russo brothers, man, they do a really good job of taking everybody else's story and doing whatever the fuck they want with it. Um,
Yeah.
Granted, it's a big universe. Stuff has to happen. It is what it is. So, uh, but even the end of the Thor movie, whenever it's like they acknowledge him as king. He's there.
hmm
Where are we going? What's next? And like they're ready to rally behind Thor as their new leader, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah. Um,
Yeah, the
I
end
don't
of
know, man.
Civil War is just kind of like, ooh, our friends are fighting, and it didn't really end happy at all, whatsoever. Like, it's very,
I feel like the only resolution in that movie, and it's a solid resolution, is for um T'Challa.
yeah, but his dad still dies, you know? It's like,
His dad still dies, but he goes on that journey where he seeks vengeance with Baron Zemo, and then he realizes vengeance isn't the answer. He's going to face justice, and he's not
oh
going to kill
shit,
him. Like,
I
that whole
forgot
thing,
about
that's a
Zemo.
good journey with
Okay,
T'Challa.
yeah,
Regardless, maybe we should rein it back
true,
into Winter Soldier. We're getting
true.
off on the getting out there.
Um,
Um, Nevertheless, this, as far as the first 2 movies of a trilogy. First Avenger, Winter Soldier gives every single one of the other MCU franchises a run for its money. The only other one, hard to beat, Guardians of the Galaxy. And I'd argue it has a better first installment. I'd say this has barely a critically better second installment. I don't think I like it more than Guardians 2, but I can't, and I'll have to revisit Guardians 2 to say for sure. But that would be the one where you can make an argument.
That's the
for me.
comparison.
Yeah.
It washes Iron Man 2 completely.
Washes Dark World, washes Far From Home,
yeah.
washes Ant-Man and the Wasp, washes like Wakanda Forever. Black Panther might be the other one. That's hard to say.
Is that it? Doctor Strange.
I like those movies, but I would take the first Avenger over the first Doctor Strange, and I would take this over Multiverse of Madness. So,
yep. I might take the first Doctor Strange over the first Cap. That one could be close, but number 2, still Cap. I think you're right. Guardians is the only one that's kind of in the running, in the conversation there.
Yeah, no. So that's the thing, is that like what they managed to do with these first 2 movies, it's astonishingly well done. You know, I think that the struggles that Steve faces with having lost purpose, aging out of his time, and kind of, you know, getting a chance to fall back into the swing of things. He says at one point in the movie, like, I just like knowing who I'm fighting, you know, like, or who I'm fighting for, who I'm fighting against, I think is what he says specifically. Like,
I really wanted to give Cap the character nod as well, because I mean, he does, like, I think his journey on this movie is actually really good. Like, now that I see the pull through of his suspicions of Shield and Fury, that's really nice. But even just like seeing him having to go through that, like not trust anybody, and even like Black Widow, like Natasha at first, he doesn't know, like it's Soviet made weapons, you know, and he has to have that in the back of his mind, you know. He's like, I don't know. Fury told me to not trust anybody at all. Like I can't do it. And like, so like whenever he like he hides the flash drive in the vending machine, and Natasha goes and grabs it, and like he like slams her in that closet, you know. It's like, it's weird to see that, like two, you know, people on the same you know, we've already had the Avengers movie. Can you imagine 2 X-Men members like doing this? Like, I don't know, like even I'm trying to think. Say Professor X dies, you know, kind of in the same fashion as Fury, and he tells Logan, don't trust anybody, you know, you can't trust anybody. Do you think if Jean comes up to him, you think he slams her in a room and is like, hey, you fucking better tell me right now that I can trust you? Or do you think it's like, all right, so obviously I can trust you, right? Like, you're, you know,
it's pretty different circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, he was thrust into this fight with the Avengers. He doesn't really know any of them.
True.
You know, like
I guess it is just the invasion that they went through together, and that is
like,
that one thing. It's not like they're spending time together at a mansion.
It seems like they've done missions together for Shield. You know, the inciting mission here, where even then she's doing stuff behind the scenes, and she's doing stuff that Steve doesn't know about because she has her own mission.
Okay. And, I guess on the boat where it's like, hey, you're compromising the whole mission. What the fuck's going on? You're getting like doing I guess it was kind of, it was
in tow with what the movie had presented so far, is that he doesn't know everything, and she can't tell him everything. As Sam Jackson, Nick Fury, he was another one that I was heavily considering for performance. I love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury.
Probably one of the best. I mean, I think definitely the best Nick Fury performance we've gotten so far. Without a doubt. I'm just trying to think of any other one that would come up. I mean, Captain Marvel, probably. Way more involved. Like, it's probably will have to wait until we get there for the next good, like as good of a Fury performance. And then
and here's the thing, I'm going Chris Evans for my performance.
Yeah.
Which I did not do for the first.
I don't think either of us did for the first Cap.
He did, as far as first Avenger, the Avengers, and this, far and away his best work so far. He's obviously growing a lot as a performer and as an actor. He's done a lot of really, really good work with a lot of really good filmmakers to this point. You know, I think his last credit prior to this, in between the Avengers and this, was Snowpiercer, which was directed by Bong Joon-ho.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's gaining a little notoriety with a little bit more of a range, and I feel like he's learning a little bit.
Also in
I
the
mean, he does.
Iceman. Wow, he's very, very cold
Yeah,
themed
cold shit. Yeah.
for a little bit, but
Winter Soldier. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But Knives Out eventually love him in that, I mean, that's a
yeah.
lot
I mean,
later, but
Knives Out's
a
probably still my
lot
favorite
later.
Chris
Yeah.
Evans movie.
But you're right here. Like, I mean, that's what I noticed too. I ended up going with him because I thought like this was like last movie. I remember being like, it's not Chris Evans yet. Like
Oh, it's not.
it's cool. He plays the character well. I think like all of that stuff was fine. He fits the suit well, everything like that. But he didn't quite give the performance that I wanted now. But this time, even with all of the crazy cast that is around him, Samuel L. Jackson, Scarlett Johansson. Like
Scarlett
I think
Johansson.
he holds his own very, very well. So
Mm.
that's why I ended up.
No, he does more than hold his own. I think that he is the leader of this cast, and I think that comes through. I think that there's when it comes to looking back at the first Avenger, one of the arguments you can make for not being a fan of that movie is how steadfast in his ways
Mm,
Steve is. Like there is no like, oh, maybe I have it wrong, maybe I'm doing this wrong, maybe I'm like, no, he is a righteous man and he has done things the correct way. He is right,
yeah.
right, and he plays it confidently. He plays it like, and that does result in a slight, I could see how you could consider it one-dimensional. In terms of a performance. Obviously, you get to the end and he has to reach a little bit more for those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout this movie, the way he plays a man out of time, like he plays like he's much older than everybody, which is fascinating because he's not. He hasn't experienced all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he grew up in a different time, but it's fascinating to watch him feel like a much older man than he is.
Yeah.
Like when Sam's like, "You thinking about getting out of the game?" He's like, "Yeah, no, I don't know." Like that whole thing, like it's really strong. I love that stuff. I think that he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he delivers my favorite line of the movie too. I punched like 2 lines in a row, back to back, in that scene with Peggy. Breaks my heart, that scene. First, I went with I lived a life. My only regret is that you didn't get to live yours, because that ends up being the conclusion of his story, is that he gets to go back and live his life. And that's, now you could say it's antithetical to what she says immediately after she says that, where she goes, we can't go back though. You got to learn to push forward. You got to learn to start over.
Well, he can go back actually.
Exactly.
So
eventually he can do that.
So it's not that he's it's anti to what she's saying. It's because she believed that you could not go back in time.
At that point in time, you literally couldn't, and now you can. So why not? So like, again, we talked about this next week. The bending of continuity, not breaking the continuity.
Yeah.
Like you go, oh well, she said that, sure, but technically, like that sort of
Nick
game
Fury,
that they play.
The last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
It was a fucking cat.
Would you really say someone? I don't know. I don't know. I guess it is a someone. Of Flurkin.
Flurkin.
It Flurk with K in there then.
Yeah.
But
and they show at the end of Captain Marvel that he plays into the myth around it. They're like, is it true? Did someone really torture you and you let them pull out your eye and you still didn't talk? And he's like, I will neither confirm nor deny the details of that story.
I mean, I think they're very clearly trying to say that it was Wolverine. Like I think that's what they're trying to like foreshadow, is like I trusted like it's 3 marks, I think, and they're trying, I don't know, maybe there were thoughts of trying somehow to get them in there at some point, but I thought that's what they were trying to go for here.
I mean, that would make a decent amount of sense. There are stories where Wolverine is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and he works with them every once in a while. So, that could be it. But Yeah, no, like they obviously leave it purposefully vague because they need to be able to tell that story one day, or they need to be able to call back to it or something. So I appreciate that sort of. That's a really good example of something that I feel like they used to be really good at.
Yeah, like it's yeah, I feel like they do it for stuff that like doesn't matter anymore, or it's like it's too just fan service stuff now, not things that will push the greater story forward or things like that. It's just very weird. Like I just watched the Marvels actually recently, and like it was fun and enjoyable movie. It's definitely not the Captain Marvel one or anything like that. I thought as far as like the next movie in the sequence off that, it was a little disappointing, but a lot of things were just like, man, it just feel like it has an entirely different feel. It just doesn't feel the same as watching the like this era of Marvel movies. And I don't know exactly what it is. Like I feel like they took themselves more seriously back then. Like, and there is this tone of like we are a Marvel movie now. Like we are the movies. I don't know. Like we know what we are. They're so self-aware now of the movies they're making that it like bleeds through into the movie itself.
mm.
But like here, it's just a good movie still. Like they are building the universe up. They are planting all of these seeds. They're being vague. They're being corny whenever it calls for it in superhero time. But it still works. It still is a very, very good movie still.
I think that part of that is that the world building at this point were these slight illusions. You know, we get Sitwell on the top of the building going, Stephen Strange, this guy, Bruce Banner, all these people, they could be threats in the future, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's like Stephen Strange, cool, Doctor
Yeah.
Strange, that's dope. But
Mm-hmm.
in a modern Marvel movie, it's like, well, why don't we just show the character and we'll see if they ever come
Yeah.
back
Why
again?
don't we just
Why
pop
don't we
through
just
a
literally have them
multiversal
here?
a multiversal portal happens because somehow, and we'll actually see them so we can get the actor in here and get people in the seats and then tell it's like cameos, and it's writing things into the story for business purposes, for like money purposes instead
Mm.
of story purposes. I think is maybe what it comes down to is
No, and I think that
after
that's
making what was it,
billions.
was it Endgame and Infinity War. What was the? Is it two? Or is it up to 3 billion? Or
No,
it's
no,
not.
uh,
I thought it was
no,
2
but
point. Maybe it's or is it still one
I
something?
mean,
I don't know
I don't
why.
know. I believe Endgame's made 2 billion by now because I mean, it made $1 billion opening weekend.
Oh my God! It's $2.8 billion. Whole like that's just.
It again. I reiterate, it made $1 billion opening weekend.
Once you do that, they are
You are not
forever
reaching that
chasing it.
mountain
But
again.
they were forever going to chase it though. They are like, we have to do something to build this up again. Like we did it before. That means we can do it again in their eyes, I think. But it took 22, 23 movies to do it, and like
In 10
good
years.
movies.
In 10
Yeah.
years.
A lot
You know,
longer
like,
at the
that's the
time.
thing,
Yeah,
you know,
true.
like, that's a long fucking time. We've gotten, like, almost 20 movies or 20 movies and TV shows since Endgame. And it's been, what, 5 years? Not even 5 years yet.
And like
Um,
Falcon and Winter Soldier, it is good. It's not like they just made it, to throw something out there. That ended up being really good. And to
no,
see,
like, that's the thing is that there are a lot of individually very good things, you know? I hate to kind of be like, "Oh, modern Marvel, da, da, da." It's just too much. That's the bottom
yeah.
line. When you're firing at the amount that they're doing, your percent is gonna go down in
Mm-hmm.
terms of what is actually decent. You know,
Yeah.
when you look at this, where we're at, The Winter Soldier, prior to this, you had Thor: The Dark World, Iron Man 3, The Avengers, Iron Man 2, Iron Man, Cap 1, Thor 1, and Incredible Hulk. That's 8 movies, is all
Mm-hmm.
they've done to this point across 6 years.
Yeah. And
And
for
I'd argue only 2 of those are bad.
Yeah, and to watch this movie, you really only have to watch the first Cap, but even then you don't have to watch the first Cap really. Like
Not particularly.
everything is pretty you understand most of it, but to watch the
Mhm.
sequel movie, I think most people are like, yeah, you got to watch the first movie first. That's like, no one's ever like, "Oh, I have to watch one movie before like that's a little, that's,
Yeah.
but like Avengers it would help to watch the Avengers, but I still don't think you really need it. It'll enhance it a little bit. It'll make some lines that characters say in some moments a little sweeter. Um, but
But, it is a little bit of a pain in the ass that come The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you ought to watch Captain America, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. 5 movies to watch this 6-episode television series.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's
yeah,
the thing is that there's just so much of it now. I think that they are just shooting from the hip and seeing what sticks, of course. And at a certain point, that's not a great idea.
yeah.
But I mean,
I guess they just
regardless,
have so much more to loop in. Like you're right, like the stuff they bring up in this movie is like they mention Doctor Strange name very very
Mhm,
briefly, and that's not no one knows who Doctor Strange is yet. He's never appeared. So, and it has no bearing on the rest of the movie. It's just thrown in there, and that works
mhm,
perfectly. Whenever you can take it out of the movie and nothing happens. Like that didn't need to be said. They didn't have to say any of that, and the movie still works
mm.
100%. But I feel like now they make it like part of the movie or like a very crucial point in which some of these things happen, or it's just they have so much backlog that they have to build in to the movie
Mhm.
that it is just maybe more difficult, but
No, like and stuff and I don't wanna sound like I'm a grump or anything. A lot of the stuff they've done in the modern MCU with that sort of stuff is cool. I would question whether or
mhm.
not it's, like, good, but it's cool, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire popping up in No Way Home and being a part of that story, it works, it's solid, it's
Was an
cool.
incredible moment.
Um,
Yes, like
it was an
I
incredible
can't
moment,
deny. Yeah, I cannot deny.
a very, very cool cultural moment, Multiverse of Madness. Cool stuff. I again question whether or not it's of the highest order of quality in terms of storytelling. Um, the post-credit scene in The Marvels, fine. What the fuck are we doing there? What is that? Why are we like, let's just
What
go
did it
see
even
Beast?
reveal? We like where yeah, it like didn't even really reveal. I don't know. I mean like
I don't
he's
think it's supposed to reveal shit
it's just
either. Like, I
like
think it's just supposed to
get you used to the
like, this is
idea
one
that
of those things where at one point it feels like it would have been mentioned. It wasn't just like a, "Now we're there. Now we're just in a different universe with Beast and Monica's mom." Uh,
yeah, and she's the Captain Marvel that seemed to appear on the Illuminati, but I guess is probably just a different variant, so not the same at all. So this is completely different because this is definitely after Multiverse of Madness,
mhm.
and
Multiversal
she's
Maria Rambeau for sure.
so this is yeah, I don't know. It was very weird. Nothing really connects. It's just kind of new universe, and Beast is there. Maybe that's just how the X-Men come in. That's just simply it. Is they're in this other universe, and Monica will bring them back now.
Yeah. No,
But
see, so, like, that's my thing is that, there's a lot of really good examples of world building and focused storytelling here that I think that, um, it doesn't feel mandated.
yeah,
I think that's a good way to put it.
yeah,
It doesn't feel like someone high up was like, "Hey, and also make sure that you get this in there."
yeah,
It's like, "Okay," and they did the slightest, most casual mentions of stuff that is not like, they do it in Age of Ultron too. That's the first time we hear of Wakanda, you know?
yeah.
And it's just Wakanda. They just say Wakanda. It's not like it's like, we're gonna go to
Hmm.
Wakanda all of a sudden. You've never even heard of it, and now we're going there." Like, it's just,
Okay, yeah.
shit like that. So, I mean, I always feel bad piling on like this, but regardless,
It's just the state of Marvel that we're in,
mhm,
sadly. But
mhm.
we'll hold on. Who knows? Maybe this next Cap movie will be good. Maybe this is the restart, of everything. But I won't hold my breath. I won't be thinking
I
it's
also
going
wanna
to
make
happen.
clear, I saw Joe's review of Letterbox on the Marvels. I liked the Marvels a great deal too. So like that's the other thing is that like
What did I give
I
it?
say all this
I think
stuff.
like a
I can
3
recognize
or
the
3.5, or I think, or something like that.
3.5. Uh-huh. And I'm not much further above that, but I'm above that. I do like it. I do like it a great deal. But that's the thing is that I find myself enjoying it for the sake of enjoying it. Like, and I think that's
Yes.
fine. That's good. And at some point that's what these movies have become. But there was a time when they were of a decent level of quality on a semi-consistent basis. And I think that this is a good example of that. This movie is, I think that
Yeah, I like the comparison to Empire because it's pretty obvious now that you say it. It is like a sequel movie. I guess it makes sense. You know, the blueprint is there. One of the biggest movies of all time. They're like, yeah, maybe we. I think it's not out there to believe that people are following through, and that Phase 2 is so Star Wars inspired.
mhm.
That is pretty cool. That it does kind of
I
follow the
mean,
story
Nick
pretty
Fury even
closely.
pulls out a little fucking device and clicks a switch and it lights up the thing he uses to cut through the fucking
Oh,
ground.
oh
It's a
my
fucking it's a
God, dude.
lightsaber.
Yes, and
Um,
freaking the Palpatine is literally Pierce, Senator Pierce. He's a
yeah,
senator, right?
yes.
Isn't he Yeah, he's a Oh my God. Wow. It's a Senate, and he's basically Hitler or the next Red Skull, hit whatever, Hydra head, but also a senator at the same time. We have Palpatine, we have Darth Vader, who's Bucky, we have Luke, who's Cap. Uh, I guess Black Widow kind of fits a Leia role a little bit, but not truly. That one doesn't fit like
Mm.
very well, but
Uh,
close.
Robert Redford plays Alexander Pierce, who is the secretary of the World Security Council.
Okay,
Uh,
so not necessarily a senator, but definitely the Palpatine, um,
Equivalent,
of
yes.
this. Let's see, is there any others? Zola would be the Death Star. I get, part of it, I
We
guess.
literally get a line read that says, "You may fire when ready."
They do say that, huh? Yeah, okay. And it is basically a Death Star, but just with a lot of guns instead of one big
Yeah,
one.
very specific targets, not just the
Yes,
entire plane.
not blowing up
Um,
everybody. They're not there yet.
yeah,
We're
no, not
not
quite.
we're not quite
Um,
there at the whole planet, but very specific and only very interesting that I guess it's only 3 ships, so it does have a range to it. But was the idea that this was just the one and done act, or that they were going to do it here, fly over to somewhere else, do it there, fly over,
yeah,
do it like, oh God, yeah, that's kind of nuts.
they were
Um,
gonna travel through, and I don't know how they
I think
planned
they
on pulling
said
that off.
20 million was like what Pierce
Yes,
said. He's like, I just
yes,
I just have to
of 7 billion
yeah.
people, I would sacrifice
Oh,
20 million.
that's all
That's
I
it.
have to do. Isn't that such a good deal? Like, what a great deal to only have to sacrifice 20 million
Oh, and
people.
then there's another fantastic line there where he's trying to pitch it to Nick Fury during that point. He's like, "Join me, join. You don't know the power of the dark side."
Oh
He's
my
like,
God. And The
"Join me."
Office is
No.
so similar, like the setting, like the looking out past the windows and like, oh my God, that's
This
kind of
actually, I also
wow.
think this movie influenced Rogue One like a motherfucker, just in terms of feel and setting and action and all that stuff. I think that this does influence that a year or two later. Regardless,
Yeah. Oh my,
whenever he does say that, he's like, "Do you have the courage?"
the
I mean,
Rogue
literally, like the
One. The
device
Rogue
that they're
One.
trying to.
Yeah, putting it in at the last second and being like, no, just shoot a fire. Just
Yeah.
open. It's
Yes.
fine. Just the sacrifice play. But then he
No,
just
like it
falls
is
out
so fucking
into the
Star
water.
Wars, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
But
Oh
he
my
goes,
God.
there's a great line from Nick Fury there whenever Pierce is like, "Do you have the courage to do it?" He goes, "No, I have the courage not to." Like,
Yeah. He's like, I'm the
that's
only one who has the strength
what
or the
you are doing.
balls to do this. It's
Yeah.
like, nah, dude. I
What
have
you are
the
doing is technically the easy way out.
yeah, like
Like you are not being courageous and facing down the like, and I like that Fury realizes that this thing they're doing, trying to track the threats before they arise. Eliminate them. He realizes it's pointless because this happened directly under his fucking nose. So him realizing like you have to face your threats when they arise. You can't try to eliminate them before it happens. And the way that Hydra was utilizing Nick Fury's vision for what they wanted to do, but they were just going to take it to the most extreme state and kind of show like that's a really complicated and well done political thriller. Like it's a
Mm-hmm.
it's a really spy political thriller here. I love it.
Yeah, and it's very out there, right? Could never have happened in real life. Like they only mentioned this Operation Paperclip in a Marvel movie where they brought actual Nazis to work in the United States government for a little bit. And that has to be just for the movie, right? Like no way we
No,
actually would have done that
no,
in real life after World War II, and taken in real Nazis and and had them inside of our government, in which during a time it was changing drastically after a world war. Perfect time for them to set up a Hydra-like plant, like build up slowly over time without us knowing, and this exact plot happening. And it maybe during the movie it got me to think like, is all this war that's going on around the world right now orchestrated? Like, I
yeah,
sure hope
right.
not.
Yeah.
War is war. People dying is just kind of bad, anyways. But I feel like orchestrated war is even worse. That like
Yeah.
people don't even know that they're fighting or not
Somebody
fighting
else
something.
war
Yeah.
for the benefit of
Um.
something else that they don't.
But no,
Yeah.
no,
No,
we're in movie
no, but like
territory here.
no, Operation Paperclip has always been just a harrowing idea as far as
Yeah, NASA and like we got to the moon. The dude who did that is just a straight up Nazi, and that's unbelievable. Like it's just like it. We taught it like yeah, we celebrate that all the time. We got to the moon before the Russians, but who did we use to do it? I mean, yeah, very strange concept, but
1,600 Nazi engineers, scientists, and leaders under Operation Paperclip brought into the United States. So
and it'd be different if it was like scientists that were forced into it because they just happened to be there. No, these were the highest ranking science and scientists and officials and such. So yeah, that like
they're like, can't let
usually
those brains for weapons
yeah,
go to waste.
usually when there's like a mention of something in real life in the MCU, it's fun, like DB Cooper or I don't
Yeah,
know, like just some ancient mystery. No, this one it is just straight up a little harder hitting. This one hits a little bit
I'd
differently,
say.
but
I'd say.
um, I don't know. I love that it is kind of the setup of the story though. Like it is like yeah, Hydra has never gone away. Like it is. Sorry, Cap, you died for nothing. Whenever Natasha says that, like, ugh, like that's gotta suck.
Yeah,
You know,
you're handling this awful well for someone who just found out he died for nothing.
ooh, yeah, and Natasha at first being like, "Damn, I really thought I was doing good by working for Shield, and now I'm working for the exact people that I
I went
wanted."
from the
Um,
KGB to Nazis.
yeah, and then but then it's like, "Ooh, yeah, for you kind of sacrificed your whole life to end Hydra, and then absolutely nothing. You knocked him down for 70 years, but that's
They
about
they
it."
did need to go into hiding. They needed to work smarter, not harder,
Hmm.
to be
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I went with Natasha for my favorite character. I went with Scarlett Johansson as Natasha for my
Hmm.
favorite character. I think that her and Chris Evans' chemistry is just off the charts. It's a really specific type of chemistry too.
Dude.
Um, that's not uh, it's not sexual unless you're down.
Yeah,
You know? You know what I'm saying?
it's towing the line of sexual. It's like
Yeah,
it's
no,
yeah.
like and this is a relationship that most people have had, where it's like, this is a friend of mine, at least by the end of this movie, it become a friend of mine who we flirt like a motherfucker,
Mhm.
but frankly, nothing's ever gonna come of that.
I
It
mean, yeah.
just is
Come on.
what it is.
They're two incredibly attractive people.
They both know that.
They're in the same line of work. They have, their shared trauma. They're
And she's
checking a
like,
lot of boxes.
"Yeah, exactly."
And
She's like, "Yep, got shot through the stomach. Bye-bye bikinis." And he's like, "Yeah,
she's
I'm sure you look terrible in them now."
is Natasha constantly trying to set Steve up with a date? is it purely just as a friend, as a wink, she's just trying to set him up, or is it kind of like, is she attracted to, like, does she have somewhat of an attractiveness towards him as well? Like, is it, is there something more going on there?
I think that there is a certain degree of attraction between the both of them. I do think, however, they both realize that they're both too much, if that makes sense.
Like,
Like
it
they're
wouldn't
both
go they both know it
no,
would not go anywhere
no,
beyond
yeah,
just like, it's just
yeah.
a pleasure
It's
moment
yeah,
that
you
they
are
want to
hot,
be
I
able
am
to have.
hot. Let's do this thing. Like it's just
Hmm.
the thing is that Natasha, she's not really. This is something that I've gone back and forth in terms of appreciating. She doesn't allow herself to love or feel love, and like that's something that she tries not to do. Hulk is kind of the exception, and even then, it's done in an odd, kind of shitty way.
Hmm.
Um, so like it's just kind of like they're not compatible in that regard. They've got a great chemistry, and I think that's enough. Like the thing is that Steve, what I love about this movie is that 70 years removed from his entire family and friends being gone, what he needs are friends.
Yeah.
He needs people around him, and this movie puts two people in his corner. It
Hmm.
puts it
Yeah.
puts Natasha and Sam in his corner firmly. And I love that. And I think that's something that Steve needed. It's something that Natasha needs at this point too. I think that, she doesn't have a lot of friends beyond Clint. Um,
Hmm.
this is kind of it for her. So whenever she is trying to set him up with a date, I think it more than anything, it's just kind of also trying to be like, you know, get a life a little bit, like
Yeah.
there's more to this than this. And she also doesn't have a life. So their relationship would just be this and this only. So it's like
Hmm.
they
Okay.
yeah,
That's fair.
yeah, it's
Fair. Um, but
but yeah, I love their chemistry. I love her in this movie. My favorite scene is when they go undercover. It starts with the mall. I love them at the mall. I think that's such an adorable little sequence where Steve, this is a different type of covert ops. Steve's never had to take part in. And him walking around with the glasses and the hat and all that stuff. And
yeah, laugh at the next thing I say or whatever. Just do it, and like, and then going down the escalator, hey, kiss me,
Mhm.
huh? What? Yeah, just
Uh,
moments of affection
and
make
then like
people uncomfortable. He's
I
like,
think
oh,
if I
okay.
were to pick a specific portion of their undercover work, it would be the ride to New Jersey after the mall.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Like it's not all one scene. They are separate scenes, like the mall and then the ride. But like that part of the movie
Yeah.
is my favorite part of
When
the
did
movie.
you learn how to
Um,
hotwire a car, steal a car? He's like,
yeah,
Nazi Germany. Yeah, I was
yeah,
in World War II.
yeah.
In case you forgot, I learned
Nazi
some shit.
Germany.
But yeah,
Um,
I don't know. He felt like I don't know what the vibe he was giving off, but he's like, no, we're renting this car. Feet off the dash. It's
yeah.
out of respect for the owner of the car, whoever. Is like where it's coming from. But it felt sort of, I don't know, like it just felt weird in the moment whenever he was saying it. Like um, I don't know. It was just weird, but I do like their conversation they had in there. It just felt very American to, they're driving the Chevy truck around,
Mhm.
he's just the one hand on the I felt it just felt like he had like one hand on the wheel, one hand on it on Natasha's thigh almost, like they're just cruising around, but uh no they I liked. I don't know that you're right about like I'm glad that Natasha's getting a character now because like every character that is surrounding Steve here is very like built up very well. Like um their stories
And it's
are.
different. It's different from our previous supporting casts, like as far as when it comes to Thor, and it's like Jane Foster, Selvig,
Hmm.
Loki, of course, ends up getting his own thing, but uh Iron Man with Pepper and Rhodey, like Rhodey's supposed to get his own thing. I don't have faith in that ever actually happening now. Um,
Yeah.
like that's like this movie's supporting cast are people who have been the main character in other stuff later on.
Yeah.
Which is...
I feel like this is the in-between of the supporting cast of Thor, them just being cool, but not necessarily, like, huge players in the game. And then, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, where they kind of aren't big players still. Some of them are, but, like, all of them are just absolutely written super well, and everyone has very satisfying arcs. It's kind of the blend, kind of in the middle. I wouldn't say it's as good as Guardians. Guardians, it's like every character you look at. I think that's just kind of like a James Gunn thing, a little bit there. But here it's definitely closer to that Guardians level compared to all.
Oh yeah, I mean,
all the
to
other
this
movies.
point where we are at in the MCU, the best movie in the MCU, right? Like at this point, I don't think it's my favorite, but I do think it's the best.
Oh yeah, I mean, on mine for sure.
I've got it second in the MCU behind Cap 1. I've got it behind the first Avenger.
Yeah, I guess my love for the first Cap is a little bit less. It's growing on me the more the time removed from it, like the set design and like kind of the timepiece of it all, and just killing Nazis. Everything kind of works.
That's the part that like I just can't get over, man. Like I love the anti-fascist streak that this movie has as well, and it's a much more relevant anti-fascist streak that I think, especially for the time of 2014, post WikiLeaks and all this stuff, and the control of information and all that stuff. Like it's a very important movie for the time. But I'm a sucker for a period piece. So right now, as of yet, I've got Cap 1 at 3. I've got The Amazing Spider-Man at 4, and then I've got The Winter Soldier at 5. So both of Captain America's first 2 movies are in my top 5 as of yet on the Letterboxd.
Yeah, and Cap, I don't know where it started initially, but I think it was a little bit lower. It has only risen up, the first one. Right now, it sits at 9 in mine right now, and this movie sits at 4. So they... it is very nice. It is only below The Dark Knight, The Amazing Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 1. I did actually put it above the OG Superman. This was... I think it initially landed right below, and then I was like, you know what? I'm like, man, if I am gonna pick a movie, this one just I have more here. Like this one has just more going for it. It is more modern. I don't like it, but if
you're a modernist.
I am. I am. Like if like I don't know, I want to be able to get past that and be like, it's just of the time that movies were made, but like movies just you can do so much more nowadays. And I feel like directors and actors and people were limited back in the day. And there's good and bad that is obtained from visual effects and everything. Maybe we've gone too far into it. I think that's definitely true. And lost some of the touches of realness and what we had to capture in camera. But I think just modern movies.
When it comes to specifically these types of movies, action, adventures, sci-fi, that sort of stuff, unquestionably the visual effects and the general appeal of the aesthetics of the movie has improved.
The ability to go from your brain to on screen is much like it's closer. Like it is very, very, very much closer than in 1970 whenever you're trying to make Superman fly. And it's just very obviously on ropes and wires and stuff like that. So it did beat out Superman, but I think that is the reason. I don't think it's a better made movie. I think, it's probably written better. I mean, it's close too. Like, I mean, it's not like this is written bad. Like, it's actually close.
Yeah, as far as where we're sitting with this movie as of yet, I mean, I'd say it's top 5 in quality because what is this, 55th? I think this is the 55th movie.
Yes, or 53, 54. It's I think it's
somewhere in there.
It would be 50. No, 55. You're right. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. But yeah, I definitely place it top 5 in terms of quality,
For sure.
and I've got it at 5 right now. So in terms of enjoyment, like it's definitely up there. You know, I think that it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely worthy of that level of praise. You know, I've just got a soft spot for Superman. I recognize that that movie's not for
Yeah.
everybody as of yet. That's still sitting atop my
I
one.
I really really
Um,
liked Man of Steel when it came back when I revisited it, but it has fallen a little bit. Like I think I put it at like 4 or 5, I think. Right now it's at 13 now. So it's fallen a little. I think that's the lowest it will go. I can't really put it below any other movies, but that's been the one Superman movie to kind of fall. But
mm,
Cap's been on the rise. That for his first movie has only been slowly inching its way up the more and more I think about it and reminisce on it. I really do like it over a lot of the other ones. It did beat Iron Man 1 now. That was the one hurdle that was very very tough for it to get over, but it
the
is
one that was difficult for me was Iron Man 3.
it's
Um,
not quite beat that one for me yet.
I've got it
Yeah, but
one above Iron Man 3.
mhm.
So, and I kind of view them on a similar level uh, in terms of enjoyment. I think I like Iron Man 3 more, barely. And I
Mhm.
think that in terms of quality, The Winter Soldier is barely a better movie. You know, like it's just like there's a
Yeah.
give and take there. So, um,
Okay.
but
Think.
yeah, no, all in all, I thought this movie was really well done. I thought that they did a really good job with the character work across the board. You know, when it came to my favorite line, I know I started with that a while ago,
Mhm.
but just it cut to the heart of Steve's character really, really soundly, and just the man he is, and
Mhm.
why I love him when he's sitting across from Peggy there at the end, and she resets her
Oh.
memory, you know,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
she's like, "Steve, you made it back." And he goes,
Oh,
"Well, I couldn't leave my best girl, not when she owes me a dance."
God damn it,
Ah, fuck,
man.
man. Ah,
God
fuck,
damn it,
man.
man.
Yeah.
Like,
No, that hurts. That hurts bad.
man.
And what I do appreciate about the end of Cap's story, and something that I think Civil War beefs a little bit. I think the Sharon Carter stuff is not the way to go for Steve. I think that was so dumb. Um,
It's a little weird. Yeah, it's like a yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other women just in the world, you know. Um, I don't know if it feels just
the, the point I was going to make
strange.
though was that I think that there is no other girl for Steve. There is no other woman for Steve.
Yeah,
It's just Peggy. Um,
that's just it. Yeah,
Hysterical that he goes back in time and cucks whoever he helped her find love with, apparently, because apparently he saved who became her husband's life. Um,
wow. So yeah, he's
and he said,
really,
"Fuck that, fuck that.
yeah,
I'm gonna live my life.
he
Fuck that
really
guy.
went to this.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go do me."
Came back. He's
Uh,
like, hey, Captain America, dude. I'm
yeah.
sorry, but I mean, like, she.
I mean, they probably never even got the chance, bro. Like he probably went back to the point whenever it was like, "No, we good. You ain't even gonna
That's,
meet that guy. I'm
I
gonna tell
guess
you that."
that's true.
Um,
They probably wouldn't have met yet. It is weird to always think of when exactly he went back,
mm.
to and everything, but no, that is a nice. The only thing is like the scene with Peggy is very strong. It's just if it was just makeup, or it would have hit way harder. Like I hate that I was taken out a little bit by the VFX and by the CGI and the
Oh,
weird
for sure.
mouth
It would have
movements
been,
and
and like
stuff, but
that's what's holding it back from being my favorite scene in the movie.
yeah.
You know? Like that's it. It's
Mm-hmm.
because it's got really strong writing. It's got really strong emotional pull. It's got incredible performance by Chris Evans there. It's burying Haley Atwell's performance. Can't tell what she's doing besides voice acting. And the voice acting is fine. I just think it would be a lot better if I could see what her face was supposed to be doing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so my point, I'm of the mind Haley Atwell should not be playing this character.
No. Yeah, no, not at
Cast
all.
a 90-year-old actress.
Yeah. It just
Call it
works
a day.
a lot better.
Um,
Yeah, what was Stanley's? I'm trying to think. What was his cameo? He was.
He was the security guard.
Oh
Oh
yes.
man, I am so
Yeah.
fired.
I'm so. That's right. Okay. Um, but yeah, no, that was a very strange decision to make there. Um, yeah, could definitely could have been like like the strongest scene of the movie, but did just kind of feel a little weird, because of it. But yeah, my my line, I like that you kind of have a line that shows more of like Steve's character, or like his personality. I chose a line that was more of showing how like he's actually a very good action star as well. I think like the lines he delivers, they're corny, but I think like he actually delivered some good ones. And it was when the elevator's filling up and everyone's sweating. He notices the fingers on the resting on the trigger. The guy's sweating bullets, and he's like, "All right, before we get started, would anyone like to get out?" And
Hard.
I thought it's I don't like it doesn't really feel like a Cap line that he would say out of like the first movie at all, but he's reached kind of
No,
this
yeah.
level now of like, hey, you guys are fucking Nazi, I'm gonna beat this shit out of you, and I'm gonna let you know now, like you have one shot. I don't know how they would have gotten out, because he goes right into it. They go right on it. Maybe he expected him to jump out the way he did, and just but they don't have a super soldier serum or a vibranium shield to break their fall.
That overhead shot of
Right.
them all laying around him, hard as fuck.
Yeah,
Top contender shot wise.
I'm surprised. The shot that I think I will end up going with. I'm surprised you didn't. Because it kind of I don't know. It was the one I guessed you would go with. But it was whenever Bucky was sitting at Pierce's dinner table, just all like drooling, and then like just
The
like
light.
spotlight
Yeah.
just on his eyes, and he's just sitting there all menacing.
I was close to it. The thing for me is that the lighting was not good enough for that.
Yeah, on his eyes it was good, but everything
It
else was
was
kind of lackluster, and like it was kind of
no,
lazy.
yeah.
It
And
was
even on his like the contrast, this is the beginning of the Russo's gray man. The reason the rest of the MCU looks the way it does is because of this movie. And it works for this movie on a lot of occasions. Like it really does. The cold, steely, fascist, grays of Hydra and that coming through. I think that works.
okay.
It doesn't but as far as lighting a scene, the Russo bros don't know how to do that shit. They do
Yeah,
not do it well.
yeah. And there's
They never have, and they
the other shot, the one that I will actually go with, the one that I think actually looks good. It is maybe it was in the trailer. I don't know, but it was whenever I think it's him falling. I don't think he's jumping. I think he's falling unconscious out of the carrier, and it's in slow motion, and you
oh
just see
yeah,
all the debris and like everything just kind of. But
yeah,
like, and the
yeah.
colors look really good there. Like, but
No, it's strong.
it's
Yeah.
obviously like they know that this is a moment, like it's slow motion. It will like
Mhm.
everyone will be looking at all these details, and like moments like that, it looks
That was
good.
I guessed yours correctly. That was what I thought
Yeah,
yours
I
would
mean,
be.
like it's a wallpaper moment, and
It looks dope. Like it
and
does. Like I almost went with it.
but I kind of hate that it's like that. Like it's so obviously not the visual style of the rest of the movie, and it's just thrown
That's
in
fair.
there to be like, "Hey, look at what we can do. This looks really good." Why not have that
Why
like
not make the
be
rest of the movie look
constant?
good
Yeah,
then?
like don't have it be a
That
moment.
is my
Uh,
premier complaint about this movie is that I
mhm.
don't think the Russos are a visually talented filmmaking duo. I think
Yeah.
they're fine. I think they can direct the shit out of an action sequence. I will give them that. The Nick Fury car chase and
Dude,
culminating in that's
that's
dope. I
actually
love that
sick.
part of the movie.
Yeah, that is
I
really cool.
really and I think that again, as far as action is concerned, I think that they're also pretty good at directing um like I guess that's still an action scene. The last fight between Bucky and Steve on the carrier. Like that's still an
Mhm.
action scene.
Oh
Obviously it
yeah.
becomes a little bit more intimate with that with the I'm with you till the end of the line. But
But
that's a really strong moment as well.
I mean, I think my scene is an action scene, and it's not even the last one. It's the I can't remember what happened that they're on the run. Maybe Steve just jumped out of the elevator and they're just chasing him. But it's
Mhm.
whenever they're on the road, just on the run, and Bucky is chasing him and eventually gets there. Like I'd say it kind of starts like they're all in the car, leaving, and then they all have to like go on like a door to like slide across the highway.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're
yeah.
all like out, and then the fight starts like on the bridge and everything.
Bucky does the whole fucking
Oh
knife
yeah,
flip
oh yeah.
and shit.
Like
Yeah, that's
and
dope. Natasha does the thing with the recorder where she sets it up and
yeah,
so cool.
yeah.
Yes,
So I
yes.
mean,
I
all that
love that
stuff
stuff.
is really cool, and like the they're I don't know. I thought like just the coordination of it all. Like, is that actually Sebastian Stan like doing that hand to
I'm
hand
not
stuff
sure.
there?
I'm assuming not. I'm
Um,
assuming not. I'm assuming that's a stunt man.
yeah,
Um,
I know one stunt guy. The only stunt guy I know that's in this. He was in the elevator for a little bit, but he's also who plays in the Black Panther suit. In Civil, I know
uh,
at least in Civil War. I think he does. He does a lot of other stuff. I think his name's Guy. Um, but I saw him in the elevator, and I'm like, oh no shit, that's the guy who plays Black Panther. But yeah, I was wondering if how much Chris Evans and Sebastian Stan actually did of their fights. Um, but
I would guess like the choreography for a lot of their fights is really, really strong, and a lot of it is also, I think it's got to be visually effects enhanced.
you
Some
think,
of the
yeah.
stuff they do.
Oh, definitely.
Um,
Yeah, like
uh,
it's not human stuff that they do sometimes, but like the close
well,
up,
that's the
just
thing is
hand to
that some
hand
like
fast
really like
moments.
you have seen shit like the giant flipping kicks that they do, where they don't like that's possible. Not quite at the heights they do it or at the power they do it, but
Mm-hmm.
that's possible.
Yeah.
Like So I'm always interested. I don't know how much of it is Chris Evans or how much of it is Sebastian Stan, but
Hmm.
Sebastian Stan delivers another really good performance. I think he's solid. He's really, really good in this
Oh
movie.
yeah.
Um, he's pretty consistent as Bucky as far as bringing his A game. He's a talented
The
actor.
score, the
Um,
his theme, like the
mm,
screeches it kind of reminded me of like the Prowler in Spider-Verse every time he'd show up and have, his very, his theme play and very horror-esque every time he shows up and it was I thought very very cool. We don't
I love
know
the
who it
whole.
is at first
Mhm.
necessarily, the mask and glasses and everything and you're like is you know we completely know
I was
now that it's
trying to
Bucky,
remember the
but
marketing for this movie. Did Sebastian Stan just not take part in the press run?
yeah, I bet not. I bet it was kind of a reveal that it's Bucky. Maybe, I mean, yeah, I mean,
I mean, as far as comics are concerned, the Winter Soldier is Bucky Barnes. So if anybody was a comic book fan coming into Captain America: The Winter Soldier, they
ah,
know that the Winter Soldier is Bucky
yeah,
Barnes.
but
But that's the
delay,
thing, is that this is appealing to a new generation in a time when
mm-hmm.
comics were not super accessible to a new generation. So like
I think the layperson just has no clue though. Yeah,
yeah,
it
no,
would
for sure.
be, I think it is a reveal. Like kind of, no, I am your father. Kind of like yeah, they needed kind of that and like Bucky. Um, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
but the
know.
whole sequence that follows there where he goes back to the Hydra base and he's getting those
Yeah.
flashbacks and they're showing what happened and they wipe his mind and all that. Like that's really strong.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing is that like while I'm not a huge fan of the Russo bros, they do have several sequences in their films that are strong. I just think that on the whole,
Mm-hmm.
they're less than.
Yeah, and very bland looking. I think you're right. Like
Yeah.
it looks
Even the shot that
okay,
I went with,
but hmm
I thought it could have looked better. It's just I liked the emphasis of it, just the general setup of it. It wasn't necessarily it was pretty strong staging. It was pretty strong blocking, and I thought that was strong. But when Cap is pulled out of the water and he's laying on the
mm,
dirt and Bucky's walking away with the river taking up like half the screen and
yeah,
the Triskelion burning in the background,
hmm
like that's it was a really well layered scene. But I don't think it still wasn't as pretty as I would have liked it to be. Like,
color. It's just like their color palette.
why
I
is the
think.
sky always gray?
Yeah,
Why is there never any color up there?
it is
I
very
just
bland. Not vibrant at all. Like I guess it's the vibrant or like the um. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but it is
like
just dark. It is dark
for
and
there's a good muted tones color palette in several movies. For example, I would describe Wakanda Forever as a muted color palette, something that is neutral, earthy tones. There are obviously colorful parts,
hmm
but that's the opportunity you are afforded with this movie as well. There could have been colorful parts. There could have been moments where Cap suit's a little bit more vibrant. There could have been moments whenever, I mean, Sam Wilson, why the fuck is he wearing that ugly ass green shirt? What the fuck? What the fuck are we doing with his? I know it's just like an exo suit. Like they
How
don't
is he
have his
not like just
super
in
suit yet.
Falcon shit? like like to mimic the like the Falcon maroon or reddish, type,
A red shirt.
yeah, like
Like they got the goggles, but they like let's take it another step further. I like that corny shit. Do that
mhm,
corny shit. Um
yeah,
so like those were just a few examples of stuff where I'm like, come on, lean into this genre a little bit more. Um but it is what it is. I think that there are movies with a similar aim in terms of aesthetic appeal for the color palette that just accomplish it
mhm.
10 times better, whereas the Russo brothers end up kind of muting everything and therein it all looks the same, and that's boring as shit.
Just doesn't
Um,
work. Does not work as well. But yeah, you gotta give them the action though. They can
their
do
action
that.
filmmaking is very strong.
They can
Yes.
do that. And props to the stunt guys as well. Whoever's if it is, I'm assuming a lot of the work is stunt, people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
very very good on them too. It looked very very good. And like the super soldier parts didn't look super unbelievable. Like it looked like it would really be if someone had super
Mhm.
like and did a super kick, basically just
Yeah.
having them fly back. So
There's
yeah.
that moment whenever Bucky kicks a dude up into the air and then he gets sucked into the engine of a plane. Uh, Fucking gnarly. Whenever he storms that carrier,
Oh,
and
dude.
I love another moment that I almost went with was Steve's speech for
Hmm.
the people of Shield, like kind of being like,
Ooh.
I know you're not all this. Those
Yeah.
of you who aren't, fight with me, take them down. They're amongst you. They could be the person to your left or right. Beware, basically.
Dude, that was awesome. And then like the
Watching
one
people
guy
rise
being like,
up.
"No, I'm not. I can't launch the ships." And then like,
Fucking
do
love
it. And
that.
then like, yeah,
And
and then
that's the
Shannon there like
captain's orders.
that.
Captain's orders, bro. I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Like that's the power of Steve Rogers. And they utilize that perfectly. When he speaks, people listen.
Mhm.
So like if that's somebody else getting on that microphone, that guy might pussy out. I appreciate that Steve Rogers is the one who
Hmm.
inspires, who gives people the
Yeah.
strength to do what must be done. I love that shit. I'm a sucker for it. And that's the thing that makes Steve Rogers kind of I don't love the idea of Superman being like truth, justice, and the American way. I don't love that.
Mhm.
But that's what makes Cap kind of the Marvel Superman, is that's in terms of just kind of general characterization
Yes,
and
totally.
the
Oh yeah, he's
inspiration that he does,
way closer to Superman
than
than anyone
anybody else.
else. Oh yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Uh, I just I came from growing up just automatically hating Cap because he was against Tony, and like so earlier, I would say things like, "Oh well, of course, Tony, or it was a draw, like it was a 2v1, they needed Bucky and Cap to fight Tony. They're like, if it was a straight up 1v1, he wastes either of them. I'd totally be in that camp, growing up, and now I'm
No,
no,
but
I
that's
don't.
the thing is that
I
there's
don't need to choose a side. Is the thing.
yeah.
I can just be the viewer, and watch these movies, and not have to like
Well, there's
do
just a
that so
lot more
much. But
nuance to it than that.
hmm
You kinda learn that as you grow up. I think that there's a lot of when it comes to the heart of that conflict, I didn't realize that this we actually see when he learns that Bucky killed Howard.
hmm yeah,
I never realized that. That was something new for me. Um, I didn't know
hmm
he learned that on screen. I thought that was which
yeah.
makes sense, that it would be through just this little Zola, you know, monologue
hmm
basically where they show Bucky and then they show Howard Stark deceased, and you're like, "Oh, yeah."
yeah. I think, uh, um, Zola. Why did I you?
Zola?
Yeah, is it just Zola? Yeah, he like
Arnim Zola.
doesn't he literally show him the actual footage of the road and like him because Tony watches his parents die on the road. He like sees the footage of Bucky killing them.
Yeah,
Um,
in Civil War, yeah.
and is that like in the facility in which Bucky was made, and then they go like straight into their fight right after that? Is that how it plays out? Or does he like see it and that's what spark like kind of sparks.
That's there. That is in that fight starts immediately upon watching
Okay,
that.
that's what I thought. Then yeah, kind of
Yeah.
that makes he's very, very much so tunnel visioned right there. He's like, oh,
Mhm.
this guy killed my mom and dad. I'm fuck yeah, I'm on, sort of thing. So like, um, I I will always, before we get there, I'm definitely going to say that I will be on Tony's side automatically. And if I'm trying to say that I'm going in neutral and I will see both sides, just inherently I will probably defend Tony more no matter what. But I'm trying. I am very much trying so to go in on a very neutral stance, to see where I
So did
am
I.
this
No,
time.
don't get me
But
wrong. When it comes to that final conflict, that is never the Team Cap, Team Iron Man thing I'm concerned with. It is
okay.
literally the idea of the Sokovia Accords and where they come down on, because that is where
Ah,
the bulk of the conflict in the movie comes from. That doesn't happen until the last 30 minutes. So it's like most of the conflict in the
hmm.
movie is basically like the political argument between Tony and Cap. So,
And what's their stances? I guess I'm just trying
Tony
to think
thinks that
like
they should turn over their control and their not freedom, but basically like they answer to the American government.
really.
And Steve, yes, yes. Uh, so
That's
good
kind of
luck trying to defend that.
that's kind of
Um,
backwards because like in Iron Man you see him like basically telling the government, "Fuck you guys. I've privatized world peace. You're
it's
welcome. I'll
because of
never
the
listen to
events.
you."
It's much more
But
nuanced for Tony
I
as well. It's
guess
because of the events of Age of Ultron and
yeah,
them having
that's
done what they wanted, and it resulting in the destruction of like all the. It's him dealing again, going back to what Cap is much more equipped to deal with versus Tony. It's very clearly a result of that.
mm,
Like
okay.
Cap understands that these things happen and it's sad and it sucks, but they're gonna happen on a larger scale if we can't respond
I
in
see.
time.
Yeah, then
If we
I'm
have to answer
definitely on
to the
yeah.
government, they have to send it through a committee. They have to decide whether or not we can go. And by the time we can do that, it's over, So like
Yeah. I guess he just felt very guilty
yes,
for
it's
Ultron. Yeah, and
100% just guilt. Yeah,
um
like
but okay. I forgot I knew it was like the Sokovia Accords, but I just forgot kind of what the political
what
argument
they
was.
those incur, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
so like it's definitely it's a very nuanced argument about superheroes
Hmm.
and what how we would
Yeah.
utilize them in a real life sense. So like that's the concept of Civil War, maybe not so much the execution. I'm excited to revisit that one. It's been even longer since I watched Civil War than The Winter
Yeah.
Soldier. So,
Yeah.
um,
I'm very lost on that, not gonna lie. Like a lot of storyline parts are falling through, but I guess we kind of get an early showing of like the Sokovia Accords and stuff like that with Natasha at the end, where they're like, "Hey,
yeah,
it's like some of us think that you should be in jail, basically, for what you did." And she's like, "You're not gonna put me in jail. You guys need me.
blew my
You
mind.
need
I'm
us."
gonna I'm gonna
Um,
this is an insane coincidence. I've watched this movie obviously a handful of times throughout
do
the
you
years.
remember that scene
Never
at all? Like,
I do, yeah.
I don't know why. This is the first time I've like ever like I'm like I don't remember this. I don't know why.
Well,
I was
because I mean, like, you've probably never been equipped to care about it.
hmm,
We're at a point now where like this is actually one of the most interesting parts of the movie is that they leak every Shield and Hydra secret, and Natasha does that. Like that
that's
is
true.
Natasha who is
Yeah.
responsible for freeing the information about this secret organization. Like that's cool shit. That's really
She's
dope. So like,
Edward Snowden, but like on steroids. Like
yeah, yeah,
she leaked everything, even her own
everything.
stuff. Everyone
Yes.
knows what she's been through and everything that she's done.
When Pierce is like, "Are
Um,
you ready for them to see you for who you truly are?" And she's like, "Are you?"
yeah, you.
Like, at least I'm not a fucking Nazi guy.
Mm.
Like, I love that shit. It's,
Yeah, yeah. I think people are gonna hate you a little more, Pierce. A
I
little
think I
bit
can I
more.
think I can sacrifice my
Um,
self-image for the greater good, okay?
mhm.
Um,
And she
yeah, no,
says,
that's, ultimately, that's part of why I went with Natasha. She's so fucking cool. I love Black
yeah.
Widow, dude.
And
I
at
think
the
she's so
end,
good.
whenever people they're kind of saying their goodbyes a little bit, and Steve's like, "Hey, like all your stuff's out. Like, what are you gonna do?" He's like, I'm looking to rebuild. Find somewhere." And he was like, "Well, that's gonna take a while, probably." And she goes, "I'm counting on it." is what she says. And I was trying to think of just what she does in between now and the next time we see her. Like if it is, I don't know, if she does just get a nice time of peace at all right now. Because
that's where my money's at. You know, I think that they do a lot with Black Widow where they were contemplating doing a thing. I think for years they were thinking about doing a Black Widow movie before they finally did a Black Widow movie. Because we see her again in Age of Ultron when they're just, you know, we get the post-credit scene, which is a tease for Age of Ultron here where, you know, and that's another thing I appreciate about the MCU at this time.
Yeah, it's just a teaser for the next movie. It's
next
not,
movie, you
it's
know,
not like
and
random
maybe
check-in
it's like,
for
maybe it's, you know, maybe it's staggered. Thor: The Dark World's post-credit scene is for the Collector, which is in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is the next one.
Yeah, but it's
Winter
like,
Soldier's post-credit scene is for Age of Ultron, which is the first one after Guardians. So it's like it's just they make sense, and there's no thread that has been left untouched for the post-credit scenes. They follow through on those, mostly because like the post-credit scene for Age of Ultron is a scene from Civil War. Really? They're filming these. We're getting to that point where they are.
Yeah. Okay.
They are filming them on top of each other, basically. But
and even I guess showing the Collector, they were
probably filming Guardians.
Yeah, they were filming Guardians because it is. When that post-credit scene was showing, I'm like, oh shit, does his little servant girl actually grab it right now? Like I'm like, is that about to like go down in this post-credit scene? Because it is the same set and everything. So maybe. Yeah,
well, and then this, you know, we see Wanda and we see Pietro, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Elizabeth Olsen. I love the last shot of Elizabeth Olsen. Also, by the way, that's one of the gnarliest little Scarlet Witch moments.
And then like the very last second of like the cube's like snapping. I wish we would have seen a little bit more. I don't know. It looked really cool. They just cut off a little early, I think. But
but yeah, no. So like again, a good post credit scene. I appreciated that a great deal. And then was there a second post credit scene in this one?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
Oh, there is one. It's Bucky at the museum.
Yes, and he's looking. Okay, that's right. Yeah, he's looking at his own thing. Okay. Very brief. Yeah, very brief.
Very brief. Yeah, just kind of showing that Bucky's trying to unlock the secrets of his past.
That'd be very trippy.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's like, I'm in a museum. You know, he's like, what the?
They think I'm dead. You know, like I'm definitely standing right here looking at this thing right now,
Cap has to
and
be
they
all
think
covert.
I died 70 years ago.
Cap has to be all covert as he's walking through there. He sees that one kid looking at him. He's like, yeah, you know, but like, who the fuck's not recognizing the big ass, muscular, tall ass dude? You're in the exhibit for him right now.
Yeah.
That
guy at the mall being like, I wish.
Damn. Oh yeah, the Apple employee. Yeah. I've been Aaron or whatever, you know, walking away. But
if you need anything, I've been Aaron.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I actually have those glasses. Wow, you guys are basically twins.
Yeah. Yeah, only if he knew who he was talking to there. Maybe it's a Clark Kent situation where it's just so like obviously there's no way I could be talking to Superman right now, so it's just not him. So maybe it is that, but yeah, I don't know. I guess a hat is actually quite the disguise. I think like, who was
it? Does a lot of heavy lifting. It does, you know.
Like Andrew Garfield went under. I think just put like a hat on. Had a Spider-Man shirt on and was walking around during like the promotion for the Amazing Spider-Man and like wasn't even recognized. I think I remember some video of him walking around in the streets and not being recognized.
There's a video of something that we actually discussed, Collateral, a couple months back. There's behind the scenes footage where Michael Mann had Tom Cruise dress up as a FedEx man and deliver packages to see if anyone would notice him, and he had to do it in like a crowded city street in Chicago. And I didn't learn this until after we recorded that, which is why. But like, awesome. He's just wearing a FedEx uniform. It's not even.
Yeah.
It's nothing done with his face. He's not wearing different glasses. He's wearing a FedEx uniform. So it's just kind of like.
Yeah, no. You know,
hard to imagine that you would not recognize Tom Cruise
but no way you're gonna
You know,
think he's working as a FedEx employee. You know,
yeah,
you're
like
like,
I'm
there's
not
no
talking to
shot.
Tom Cruise right now. There's a part of that video too where one guy like kind of like looks at him and is like there's one guy in that video, it's funny, that definitely knows he's Tom Cruise. And it's hysterical because they're talking about how like nobody recognized him, but there's like one guy who's just kind of like, oh, you can tell he thinks it's like hella cool. He's like, oh
Wow,
shit.
no one's ever gonna believe me. Like he's
Yep.
like,
Just saw Tom Cruise deliver a package as a FedEx guy.
yeah,
But yeah, no, but regardless, it does a lot of heavy lifting, that sort of disguise. So I see it more and more every day. The one that I cannot wrap my head around is the people working in close proximity to Clark Kent. Lois Lane not being able to pick up
that's
on
the one.
That's
the one who's talks to both of them, like who actually
all the
talks
time.
to both of them
Yeah.
as separate people, whatever, but I think this one is cool.
It's fine. It is what it is. I love it. Superman's one of my favorite comic book characters, period. And that trope, I'm a sucker for it on screen. Like I said, Superman 78, my favorite comic book movie. So it
works for him.
It works. It works. But are we ready to rate this bad boy?
I think we are. Yeah, we have all the favorites mentioned.
All right. Before we rate, I'm gonna go ahead and do some plugs here. If you are not watching on YouTube, you can now. Look us up, Penny Bloom Podcast. I got little things on display. I got a nice little replica shield from Captain America: The First Avenger. It's a lot of fun. Got this right over here. I got a little Captain America book over here, Sentinel of Liberty, the most recent Cap run, issue number 2 over here. It's wonderful. Love that. But yeah, you can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on TikTok at Penny Bloom Podcast. You can follow on Twitter at Penny Bloom Pod, Instagram at Penny Bloom Podcast. Head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where for $3 a month, you can support the podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money and I don't make any off of it unless it's over there. To this point this year, we have published more than 8 hours of exclusive content in 2024. At least one thing a week, which is a lot of fun. And it's always a random conversation that we have a good time having, not so formatted and structured like we do here. So you can have a good time over there. $3 a month, huge help. But yes, let's rate this movie. How are you feeling about it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Well,
enjoyment wise,
it's up there. I think we gave the first one a natural comparison. I think the first Cap, we gave that one a 9.75. And I think I'm either like right around there, or I could go like with the 9.5 movies. Group it up in there with it.
We gave First Avenger a 9.75.
9.25.
Oh,
sorry. Maybe I just said that wrong. Came out wrong. Yeah, 9.2.
Oh, I might have heard it wrong too. My bad. I don't know. Either way, I heard 9.75 one way or the other.
I don't know if I'm there.
I could. For me, it is. For me, if First Avenger is a 9.25, this is a 9.25. I would be okay with it joining the 9.5 tier, though. If that is something you'd be more comfortable with, I don't mind that.
That's Superman, Iron Man 3, and Days of Future Past. I'd say other than Superman, probably better made movies, or better made movie, but I think I enjoy Iron Man 3 and Days of Future Past just a little bit more.
So you throw it a 9.25. I'm cool with that.
I think I'd tie it on enjoyment. It is tied, I guess, with the first Cap, but well, I don't know. I was gonna say that I'd put it over, but the enjoyment from both, it's different kinds of enjoyment, I think.
No, it is. It is. And like I said earlier, I've got the First Avenger above this one. So like that's for me, it's I do like the First Avenger more, but it's not by much. It probably would be if we're doing a 0.25 scale on the same level. One of those deals where I'd go like 9.2 versus 9.1 type shit, but if we're gonna do this thing, let's go ahead and make it a 9.25.
Okay. Then there we go. I like a 9.25. And then critically now, the first one we gave a 7.75. I think the story grants this one a little boost. I think the story is pretty good.
I don't think it's as visually appealing as the first one.
Yeah, the first one looked a lot better. So maybe that brings it back down to similar footing. But I'd say it's Chris Evans does a lot better. Everyone surrounding him does a really good job.
Yeah, I'd say there's something a lot more pulpy about the first one. It's hard to compare them. Like
I guess
the
different
first
time
one's a period
periods.
piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and this one is modern. So like there's a different feel to it completely. And I think that performance-wise, it'd be kind of doing the first one a disservice to say that like Haley Atwell and Tommy Lee Jones and Stanley Tucci and these Sebastian Stan, that they did a worse job, because I
Yeah.
think they're just doing a whole different thing. And so ultimately, I would agree Chris Evans does a lot better in this one though. Like that's the undoubted. He elevates like crazy here.
Yeah.
So we gave the first one a 7.75. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'd be cool giving this an 8 or an 8.25.
Okay. 8s would be The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one. First Class, V for Vendetta, and X2. 8.25s would be Big Hero 6, Mask of Phantasm, Spider-Man, and The Watchmen.
Let it join that one. It's 8.25 if you're giving me those. Frankly, I think Cap First Avenger might be a little higher than a 7.75 these days, now that we're a little removed from it. But regardless, I think 8.25 is a fair assessment there.
Okay. And if we go there, it will shake out to be, oh, that one doesn't follow our formula yet. I'll have to put it in now. It does an 8.58, so an 86%. Which do we have any of those? We do. Big Hero 6 and The Amazing Spider-Man are 8.58s, which is
2.858 in the same week.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And it would technically be, I mean, it's in 8th, but there is a 3-way tie between The Amazing Spider-Man, Big Hero 6, and then another tie for Batman Begins and Spider-Man at an 8.75 right above it. So it's technically tied in 5th place right now.
Cool. Yeah, I think it earns that. I think it does. And especially given our personal re-ratings that we've been doing and we're working on and trying to find a new middle ground, sort of, it'll be interesting to kind of reassess it that way.
Yes.
But
yes.
Yeah, with that coming to an 86, we're a little bit nicer than the IMDb. I checked that earlier. Believe it or not, the IMDb has Civil War as the best Captain America movie, this as the second best Captain America movie, and First Avenger as the worst Captain America movie, which for me, the exact opposite.
Yeah,
so
flip
fascinating
those
little
around.
miss.
I think it's just the amount of big names that are in the movie.
Civil War is a different animal in terms of hype and excitement, and it was the first, because I mean, even Age of Ultron and Avengers, they have a lot of big names, but they don't have all the big names.
And introducing new people. Black Panther,
Spider-Man.
Tom Holland's first time. Like it is huge.
It's a whole other ball game. So I get why people love that movie ultimately, but I'm excited to get to it now. I'm excited to revisit that. It's one that I'm excited to get to. But with that, we will conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom podcast. I already did all the plugs, so if you would keep on coming back, we will be continuing our comic book movie journey through film next week with X-Men Days of Future Past on Wednesday and Guardians of the Galaxy next Friday. A stellar 2 weeks that we're on right now. Big Hero 6, this Days of Future Past, Guardians, and we follow that week with Age of Ultron and Ant-Man. So we're on a streak right now. I'm loving this era for comic book movies. But yeah, we also got the Game of Thrones Winter is Blooming, our rewatch podcast on Mondays. We're inching nearer and nearer the end of season 7. I believe next week is season 7, episode 5. And I'm excited to get to that one. I'm excited for y'all to hear it. But yeah, with that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, homie, peace, love, and bloom. And I'm with you till the end of the line.